Hey YouTube, it's Jeff at Darkmoon Metals. Welcome back to the shop, and welcome to 2017. We may be a third of the way into January, but this is the first video I have had a chance to post on YouTube. Not for the lack of trying, I just haven't had any original jobs come through the door that I could share with you guys. So I decided that this needs to stop. I need to get some content out here for my subscribers. Which, by the way, we are over 9,000. Yeah, that happened over the New Year's weekend. So thank you for all the new guys who have been coming to hang out and watch the videos, and gals. And as always, to my long-term subscribers, thank you so much for hanging out and coming on this wacky adventure with me. So the project that I have, it's probably going to become a multi-part video. I am going to be doing just about everything I know how to do. I'm going to be using a lathe, I'm going to be using a mill, I'm going to be doing forging, welding, and everything is going to come together to culminate in one object. And I am finally going to get around to making the project everyone's been asking for. Jeff, why haven't you made a knife or a sword or some other kind of weapon like they do on all the other smithy, machiny type channels? So that's what I'm going to be doing here, and it's going to be inspired by what I have right here. So let's get to the point. This is a spear. The spear point itself has a triangular taper to it, very similar to a rondel dagger or a historic like Civil War era bayonet. A lot of people think these things are illegal because of the type of wound that they leave. It's very hard to heal, and a lot of the people who died from bayonet wounds in the Civil and Revolutionary Wars died because of the infections they left behind, because that type of blade makes a really, really nasty wound, and it was very hard to stitch back up. So I'm going to make a blade based on this, but I'm not going to be making a spear, and I'm not going to be putting this corny fuller down it. It doesn't really need a fuller. What I am going to be doing is making a push dagger based on the triangular tapered blade. And I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. A lot of people have started to know me as the rose guy. And about a year or two ago, somebody approached me and wanted me to turn one of my roses into a rigid parry, specifically for the SCA and combat rapier fencing. Concept is, you have your sword, you have a rigid parry. You can use the rigid parry, whether it's a stick or some other object, to basically parry that person's blade away from you while you can lunge in for an attack. Now in the SCA, it's not like collegiate fencing where you're limited to one sword and you simply go back and forth in a straight line on a mat. Combat rapier fencing, you can employ the use of a sword, sword and dagger, two swords, sword and cloak, sword and buckler, sword and rigid parry. There are a lot of different combinations that you can use. But when I thought about it, I realized that all of the weight is at the top of the flower, and to try to maintain control of this while you're wearing a rubber glove, even if I put a counterbalance on it, it's going to be kind of awkward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn a rose into a push dagger. I'm going to create the bloom out of material that's about 90 thousandths thick. Now my regular steel roses is about 30 to 35 thousandths. The leaves are going to form the cross guards or the keons, while the bloom acts as the hilt that the blade is going to see into. Now I'm going to have the full tang of the blade come through the bottom of the rose, and I'm going to have pretty much a full rat tail style tang, but it's going to be machined to the piece I'm going to taper into the triangular cross section. I'm going to machine a pommel for it. I'm going to make the handle probably out of something like purple heartwood. And this is going to be just a really, really cool version of an elegant rondel style dagger that I am going to make, because it it utilizes a lot of the skills I already have, but the triangular taper is going to be the trick. So in today's video, the goal is to get the tang machined, get it threaded, and get it ready so I could start forming that taper. All right, YouTube. Now the stock that I chose to use for this is 3/4 inch thick hex stock. This is 10 3/4 inches long. It's just what I happen to have laying around. I was going to use another piece, but the stock was a little bit thinner than this, and I want to have a nice heavy piece to taper. I need to face each end of this, but I can't do it on the lathe. I just try to set it up in the chuck, and it doesn't feed all the way through. It fits in the chuck okay, but the opening that goes through the headstock isn't large enough to accommodate this. So I'm going to have to turn to the milling machine and mill each one of these faces rather than turn it. Alright YouTube, got the face milled, cleaned up the burr on the belt sander. The next thing I need to do is find the center of this, drill a small hole so I have something to ride on the live center in the lathe. Let me show you the fastest way I know how to do that. Okay YouTube, because I am too cheap to buy layout fluid, I just use a black magic marker to come on the end here and color that in. Now this stock is 3/4 of an inch thick. So to find the center point where I'm going to put my center punch, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use a transfer punch. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to use this to scribe lines. This is 3/4 of an inch in diameter, which means the point is going to be the exact center of this spot. Now I'm not doing this with a lab plate or a height stand, which is, I wanted to be precise, that's what I would use, but this is just going to be something I'm going to forge out by hand in the end. So, scribe the lines, just roll it twice, as it's six-sided, and there is my center point. I'm going to center punch that in the vise. I'm going to drill the hole for the live center, and then I'll come back here to the lathe. I'm going to do that stuff off camera because you've all seen me do it before. So I'm going to leave myself 4 inches for the tang, and that's going to be the threaded part as well. I'm going to incorporate the pommel, so the pommel actually acts as part of the handle. I'm going to need some extra weight at the back end of this just to balance everything out. So I'm going to turn this piece, 4 inches worth, down to 3/8. Alright guys, I'm going to go and thread this. I only need to do about 1 inch of thread, not even, probably 3/4. I was shooting for 3/8 or .375. See if you guys could see this. Get on there. It's hard to hold this in front of the camera. Off by 2/1000. Those are some pretty looking threads on YouTube. But like so many other things, it's something that you've seen me do before, so I did that off camera. Alright folks, it's time for me to level with you. The reason I chose hex stock is because I was too lazy to start off with round stock. I am not proficient in the ways of a smith yet, but I know that if I want to make something that's 3-sided, I just need to hit this on every other side to start drawing it out to a triangular point. Now, a good smith would be able to take a piece of round stock and make their own hex stock. I just kind of skipped that step. Once I get the taper started, I made myself a Hardy tool. You can see the profile of that. And I'm going to use these to draw out the triangular sections and define them a little bit more. Now I know there's going to be a lot of filing involved afterwards, so I'm going to try to get this profile as close to where I want it as I can. Alright YouTube, so let me explain where I am in the process. Now, I've made one of these triangular cross-section blades before, and I didn't run into anywhere near the amount of problems I had with this. The one thing that was different is I used a different size stock, and that's really what I made those dies for, the Hardy tool. And I figured, I'm going to kick it up to 3/4. I want this thing to be really impressive, and I'll draw it out. It won't be as long, but it'll be sturdier. Well, this is the 3/4 stock. If you can see, I'll put my fingers underneath there, you could see that there was a triangular cross-section starting to form. It's fish-mouthing a little bit, but you can definitely see it. So the theory does work, and a more experienced smith probably would have gotten it to work a heck of a lot better. If you look at the triangular if you look at the taper, you can tell that it is thicker here than it is here. So in theory, everything would have worked. If I had a little bit more experience, I think I could have been able to pull this off with this size material. And then as I was beating it into submission in between heats, well, I lost my tang. It broke right off, and it broke off pretty clean. I don't know how well you could see that. And no, I didn't quench this. So I'm wondering if this was just really crappy steel to begin with. Like I said, I found it laying around in the shop. Now, the last time I actually forged one of these damn things, I used 5/8 material instead of 3/4, and that fit all my tools better. So what I did is I've gone ahead and I remade another piece. I found a piece of 5/8. I didn't think I had it anymore. It's the only reason I was using the other stuff. So what I did is I made a new tang. This tang is actually thicker than 3/8, and I left the shoulder in. I threaded this. This is a, I know this. It's a 3/8 16 national course. It's a little bit longer. I started out with about 10 3/4 inches overall. I started out with this one where the stock I am going to taper is about 10 inches. And this is still 4 inches, so I started out with a piece about 14 inches long. So, it's time to fire up the forge and give this another shot. I know it'll work. I've shown you that it is starting to work. And I've made one of these stupid things before in the forge. So I'm going to use the material that I used before and see if lightning strikes twice. Before I fire up the forge, I actually want to share something with you guys. I just remembered something. I was trying to figure out how the heck I held on to this thing before, because I really didn't have halfway decent tongs. In fact, truth be told, I still don't have halfway decent tongs. I made them all. I made this. All it is a pipe with an Allen head holding onto the tang. This is how I made the last one. That's how I was able to hold it securely. And it's why I wasn't having the tang flop all over the place and bend. So now that I have my pipe and I remembered how the heck I did this, this is going to get a little bit easier. need to bring my light with me. All right, YouTube. I'm gonna have to set the camera up to get a better look at this somewhere else. I just don't have the right lighting. All right, guys. I just cleaned her up a little bit on a 60 grit belt, and then I went up to a 100 grit belt. Got most of the file marks out of it. I am going to lose a little bit off the point because I need to contour and make one even bevel. There's a little bit of an indentation up in here, but all in all, it's not too bad. But there you have it. Got my triangular profile. Definitely need some finish work, but this is where I'm going to stop the video for today, and we'll catch you in part 2. Alright folks, there you have it. I had a funny feeling that this video was going to be in definitely more than one piece, but that was about 5 hours of my life after my regular stuff that I wanted to get done in the shop and other work. You know, had one major setback and waste of time, but it's not a waste of time because I remembered what I did the last time I tried this, and I got much better results after I started again. Between the machining time and the forging time, figure about 3.5 hours, maybe an hour and a half of filing, and maybe 10 minutes tops on the belt sander. If you like what you see and you want to see how this project concludes, please like, comment, subscribe, hang out, check out my other videos. But for now, I'm going to wrap this up because after a 12.5 hour day, I still have to edit this puppy. And I would like to get it online before I go to bed, so it's been a long day. So I'm going to wrap the video here. I will see you again soon. This is Jeff at Darkmoon Metals. Take care.